It meant to me that what mattered most was these guys and this
Mm.
relationship that they had that was like brothers. I don't really know that I fit in any camp real comfortably. I might have a particular story that fits in that camp from time to time, but mostly I don't think of it that way. I just think, what's a good story that I want to tell?
I am here with a man that really needs no introduction, but I'll introduce him anyways. Joe R. Lansdale, who is just an absolute legend in this genre. You might have heard of a little thing called the Bram Stoker Awards, which of course we wouldn't even have that if not for you. And we're here today, though. I mean, you've won so many awards that I could probably have an entire episode just kind of talking about all the stuff that all the awesome achievements that you've had over the course of your career so far. I'm sure there's still more to come. But today we are here to talk about HAP and Leonard and a new book that you put out called Hatchet Girls. I was really intrigued by this. Number one, the fact that we get to see the continuation of HAP and Leonard. It feels like they're just never finished. We've got these guys. Thank you very much. Beautiful. And the first thing I want to lead off with here, Joe, is to kind of clear up what I think is maybe the elephant in the room, which it's rumored, as you've suggested, that this might be the end of the road for Hap and Leonard as far as seeing you write more adventures to them. And how much truth is that?
Well, there's another one. I just finished another one called Petrified Dreams. Now that is the last Hap and Leonard book, probably.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the reason I say probably is I never say never. I may wake up one morning and Hap says, you're writing about me today. But right now, I think that's it. I think that there's this one, and then this next one, which will come out next year sometime.
Perfect. So it sounds like either way, you're starting to kind of maybe ease back a little bit then on the Hap and Leonard adventures. And I mean, it's just when you think about, since we first saw them written about in, I believe it was Savage Season back in 1990. It's just an amazing journey that they've had, amazing journey they've led all of us on, and obviously yourself as well. But through all that, I mean, you're busy as hell. You've always got all kinds of projects you're working on.
Yeah.
You take the time to maybe pause for a moment and sort of reflect on all that you've been through with the boys and, what they've meant to you and, in your career so far?
Well, I only work about 3 hours a day, and I work about I generally work 7 days a week. Every once in a while, I take some time off, but I only work 3 hours a day. So I got a lot of time for contemplation and exercise and, whatever else people do, so yeah. I do think about them. And they were an accident. They were a happy accident. I was going to write one book about it. This guy named Hap Collins.
Yeah.
Turned out he had a friend named Leonard Pine. Turned out Leonard was gay. Turned out Leonard was conservative and Hap was liberal. Turned out Leonard had been in Vietnam and Hap had been not a conscientious objector, but a protester of that particular war. Okay. People always get that wrong. He wasn't a conscientious objector. He was opposed to the war, but he wasn't a conscientious objector in the broadest sense. Because, when they took me in and I would not go, and I almost went to prison, all like Hap. But I told them that I'm not against, certain times when I would certainly fight, but this isn't one of them, and so on and so on.
Right. And that's always the thing that I absolutely love about these guys is that they seem certainly, Hap seems like a very, lackadaisy, carefree guy, kind of goes wherever the wind is blowing him sort of thing. And it feels like he's up for anything anytime and he's down for anything anytime. But he also has a very distinct set of principles as well.
Yeah.
And he has absolute lines that he will not cross these, or lines that if he gets pushed to them for certain reasons, he absolutely will cross that line if it's
right.
Serves his, his values and his
he's always disappointed in himself.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of us out there that can certainly relate to that, whether it's for better or good, and we've got great intentions, and we probably do them again anyways. We always have to think, well, I don't know, it's, was the cost really worth it kind of thing?
It could have
done that differently. Yeah, could have done a little bit better. And then I often think too back to F. Paul Wilson with his Repairman Jack novels, where I don't think he ever set out to make a career out of it. It's also hard to imagine, you without Happy Leonard, and Paul Wilson without Repairman Jack, Anne Rice without the Vampire Chronicles, that sort of thing. Stephen King without Castle Rock. How do you think that they've ultimately helped to shape your career? And I'm wondering if you've ever thought about what your career might look like overall without them in it, in the way that they might have shaped it, might have influenced it, if they just weren't that happy accident.
I think they gave me a microphone, so to speak, for saying a lot of things that I would like to say, and for what some of my friends had said. And I didn't want it to be this sort of thing where well, what if people are thinking? Is this going to be offensive? Is this not going to? I wanted it to be like two guys that were so close they could talk about anything, and that they understood each other. They knew what each other meant. And so it was a great opportunity in that way to express a lot of ideas. And, Hap doesn't always share my ideas, actually, but he has a lot of them that are like
Mhm.
mine. And Leonard isn't always opposite of my ideas. I share some of his, but the thing was, it was like a dialogue between them. To me, was far more important than the adventures. That's how you stuck it all together. That doesn't mean that's insignificant or that it doesn't matter, but it meant to me that what mattered most was these guys and this
Mhm.
relationship that they had that was like brothers.
Right. And I love that. I think one of the most beautiful scenes that I've read with these two guys, to your point, is it was in the I'm brain farting here on the title of it. You've had a recent collection come out, The Trouble with.
Oh, Born for Trouble.
Thank you very much. Born for Trouble. I should know that because that was the catalyst to last time you and I did a podcast like this. And there was this one particular scene, I think it was in the opening story, where Hap and Leonard are foolishly trying to relive their youth and how they love to go camping together. And they're both just miserable. They hate it. It's just not what they remember. They got families, they got bills to pay, they hate bugs, all the rest of it. But it's just these two guys under the stars, kind of miserable, not kind of, but completely miserable. But you realize they've got each other's company and that's okay. And just the way that their dialogue kind of goes back and forth, and you really realize that it's their personalities that shape the adventures that they go on, not these adventures that shape their
Yeah, no, I
personalities,
think
which I
that's
thought
true.
was really
I don't
cool.
really remember if that was Born for Trouble or which one that was. I've done so many, but there were like 4 or 5 short story and novella collections, besides the
Yeah,
15, well, soon to be 15 novels
yeah.
of Hap and Leonard. But yeah, it is. That's the thing. I wanted them to be interesting. I love to read about great characters. I love great dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm as influenced by literary stuff as I am genre stuff. They both had a tremendous impact on me. I don't really know that I fit in any camp real comfortably. I might have a particular story that fits in that camp from time to time in one of their camps or several, but mostly I don't think of it that way. I just think, what's a good story that I want to tell?
Certainly with Hap and Leonard, it's really tough to just call them. I mean, you can't really call them horror, but there's certainly some very horrific elements
Yep.
and darkly humorous elements in a lot of the stuff. And when I was reading this one, I thought, ultimately you've got, sort of a final showdown, maybe a penultimate showdown with Hatchet Girls and the Happy Leonard. I guess time will tell with that one, and inspiration, etc. But in there, you kind of talk about how you've got this methed up hog sort of at the center of it all, with this, you know, I assume a cultish kind of leader, where she's, hell bent on venging these societal issues that this woman thinks needs to be righted or needs to be corrected. And while I'm pretty sure that this methed up hog, probably knowing your work, will give Cocaine Bear a run for its money, I thought, I could just see some horribly horrible things happening with this, but some horribly humorous things happening with this. So I had to ask you, where where did the inspiration for a method hog come from? And I'm kind of wondering, at what point did you realize that that was part of the story in your, germination process, knowing that you don't exactly outline things, and
And
that
my
people
wife
here at
and I
the
used to
are.
farm a little, and we also raised hogs, and we had like a savage hog. And I remembered the incidents with that hog, which I'm putting into a memoir right now. I'm writing that. I'm about 2/3 through it,
Okay.
but that was the inspiration for it. And so I then thought, I'm just going to write this scene and bring this person in who wants Hap and Leonard to capture a hog that's very dangerous, that's on, and she doesn't realize it's on meth at this point, and it's okay for people to know it's not going to destroy the story in any manner, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But they set out to do that, and in the process, that it leads to other stuff. That's the way most Hap and Leonard novels are, is that they're out to do this one thing, and this one thing leads to 10 things they don't expect. And part of that is because I don't know what to expect. I don't plot, I don't plan. All my novels take place as I write them.
Gotcha. And I love that too. So, because I was wondering about that also, is that, understanding that now this may, thankfully, well, this definitely isn't going to be the last one, because you've got another one cooking that you mentioned is going to be coming out after this one, and then who knows what.
It's done. It's finished.
Oh, it is done. Okay. So maybe this is a great question to ask you then, although that one's done, is when you're thinking that there is a possibility that that might be the last one, which I'm sure you've said that over maybe a last few books of these guys, is it become any more important for you to know how the story at least ends, even if that's the one thing that you have mapped out, and it's just a matter of getting to that point thinking these guys need a proper send-off, they've done their dues, I need to do them well? Do you write by them, or is it still...
I think the one I just finished ends well. I think it's the sort of thing that if there was never another one, it would work. When I told my daughter I was writing the last one, she broke out crying.
Well, they're probably part of her family too, just like yours, right? And like a lot of us readers.
Son too. They both, Keith was like, what? But they've been with us, like uncles for them. They hear Hap and Leonard all the time. And people are always asking about Hap and Leonard and Hap and Leonard. And like I told her, I said, if I decide to bring them back, I will. I don't feel that I owe anybody anything other than the story I want to write. I always try to say this in a way that's polite. I don't write for other people. I write for me. But then I hope other people like it. I just don't think I can guess what you're going to like, so I'm going to end up writing a terrible book. But if I write a book for me, I've got a better chance of there being people that like it. So that's kind of the way I did with this Hap and Leonard. I came to the ending that I thought was right, and where they could go off into the sunset. On the other hand, it could be continued.
Right.
I didn't kill them off, and I will say this right up: that's never going to happen.
Good.
And I don't age them like I age. They age only when I write about them.
Right. I mentioned that before, and I thought that was just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, that's what works for me. If I haven't written about them in 8 years, they haven't aged 8 years, even though I have. And the other reason that I'm looking at this ending is I'm no spring chicken. I'm 73, 74 in October, and I hope to be around a lot longer and write a lot more novels and things like that. But
Right.
I think it's time to start kind of looking at that and saying, how would you like to wrap this up? I mean, there's nothing that says I have to, but it just seems like a good idea while I'm in control of it.
Absolutely. And I know before, one of the things that blew me away is, what was it? Maybe I think 2 years ago that you and I chatted before, and I thought it was pretty amazing that you've got this just absolutely impressive career that what I think you've got. I think on Wikipedia it says you've got about 40 novels, but I'm sure you've got a lot more of
Over
them.
50.
Gotcha. That makes a lot more sense, because every time I turn around, you're putting more stuff out. What blew me away was a couple years back when you said that you feel like you're in the absolute prime of your professional career.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, do you see any difference in the stories that you're telling now as a result of that sensation, or maybe that awareness or realization?
I think that I write better stories. I think that I understand character even better. I think that I know how to get more in a scene than I did before. So I actually think I'm at my peak right now. What I was talking about is that time may be not on my side, but as far as like
Sure.
ability, I don't think I've ever been any better than I am right now.
That's an awesome thing to think about, and and to feel too. I'm sure that's fantastic. That's the juice that's going to keep you going, no doubt.
Yeah, I hope so. And I had, I did some film work last year, and I've done some comics, and I'm about to do some more. I think, I've got the memoir, which I hope to have finished, and just a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to go at all those with the same sort of hammer and tongs that I always do. But for me, it's not about being prolific. I don't care if I'm prolific. I care if I'm good. And I try to write as well as I can. I try to write where if you read something of mine, you can see it, smell it, taste it, and that it is cinematic, but it's written in such a way you may not realize how much work has gone into it, because
Right.
it should read when I'm on, which I like to think I am most of the time, like, just clean water. You don't even notice it. Like it's written on water, you know.
Absolutely, as opposed to reading some big, huge, complex thing that you have to sit for an hour, maybe read it a few times.
Well,
Well, now I get it. He really put a lot of work into that as
yeah.
well. So you put so much work into it that it's like you said, the water, and it's a smooth sailing. There's just
Yeah, I mean,
it's like uh,
I'm much more interested in Hemingway prose than I am James Joyce, or Faulkner. I can appreciate
sure.
Faulkner, but on the other hand, I like someone who seems simple but isn't.
Right.
I
What a
just
neat
remember
way to
Sam saying that the stories read like parody, and I thought, yeah, they kind of do. That wasn't my intent.
no. Speaking of the parody, which I know it is interesting because in a lot of ways, Hap and Leonard, a lot of their stuff very much is like parody. And I know one of the things that, again, thanks to your wife, who obviously runs by the same sort of intuition that you do, so maybe there's some influence there, maybe back and forth, where she would often get three newspaper articles
Yes,
completely different from each other, throw them together, and say, what can you do? And you would write something so it would seem absolutely outlandish, and then throughout the story you realize this is all connected and it actually just works.
you would learn how to take things that didn't have an obvious juxtaposition and see it. And even though I quit doing that with the papers because that was too artificial, it gave me the ability to write a story that would start from this angle but could find another angle to pull into it that might not
Yeah.
normally seem fitting. And but I felt it was, and it's up to the reader to decide on those things. But yeah, that was a big help too. I mean, like I said, she was the most influential person as far as giving me motivation, and and it taught me not to be that sort of specialized writer. I just write when I get inspiration. You are
Yeah.
inspiration. There is no muse. There's nothing out there. It's all in here. It's you.
Right.
And I do lucid dreaming. I always have. Well, I haven't always, but I became much more so when I started to write seriously. So I actually have dreams where I'll back them up and start them over and redo something that I don't think's working in my head. And when I wake up in the morning, whatever I've done must still be there, because when I get up, I go and I turn on the machine and I go. And you got to remember that back in these days I'm telling you about, it was doing it with a manual typewriter. And so I wrote 90 stories, wrote a story a day, and they were short stories mostly.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't very long. There were a few that were longer. I taught myself first how to write. We didn't call it flash fiction then. We called it short shorts, which sounds like, sexy stories, but that I think I learned more from that and feeling like I had to have something to show her when she got home, and that it taught me how to condense ideas and things. And then when I went to write my novels, it was hard at first, but the lessons I learned from the short stories really helped. I think it was William Somerset Maugham has said, a novel is an easy way to write a short story.
Huh. That's that's a very interesting
Very
way to
true
term
for
that.
me. Yeah.
And it's funny because I know so many people that they can't write a short story to save their life. They've got novels, they can write fantastic
Yeah.
novels, but
Well,
short
it's
stories,
true. I
can't
mean, there's
do it.
some people that can't do that, and it's just it's just a skill set that some people have.
Sure.
Or I don't know if I had that ability early on or what. I think a lot of it was I spent a lot of time writing. I spent a lot of time reading. I mean, I read a lot, and back then I read even more. And I think that if you don't read, you might be able to write, but you're not going to be much of a writer in the long run. So I
Right.
read a lot and I wrote a lot, and you learn in the process more than you learn by advice. And I never took a writing class in my life. In fact, I don't have a degree in anything.
You've got a degree in discipline and get it done.
Yeah, that comes from martial arts and from, like I say, wanting to, make my wife proud of me.
That's awesome. Well, you've made her proud of you, and you've definitely made a whole horde of a whole legion of readers very proud of you. So we're,
Yeah,
especially coming from the horror community, we're proud to call you as our own.
I'm proud to accept that.
Yeah, other genres, they can bore you for a bit, but they got to bring you back. So, and I understand too, to kind of again go back to Hatchet Girls. You mentioned that you've got a piece that you can maybe give us a bit of a teaser sample, so we kind of know what we're getting ourselves into with this, this methed-up hog and cult leader that is,
Well,
quick not right in
the
the head.
thing is that the first chapter does not introduce the cult leader.
Okay.
The first chapter sets up the storyline. And how much do you want me to read?
Sure, as much as you want. I mean, if you've got something that maybe it's a
I got
chapter,
to be
maybe
short. Yeah,
sure,
read this here.
whatever you think, maybe a 10 minutes.
Yeah, about like that. Maybe later.
Sure. Perfect. And I'll put the whole camera right on you, Joe, because this is all about you.
Yeah, and I'll do the best I can with my throat condition here. So
You got it. Yeah, take some breaths if you need it. Take a pause. It's all good.
all right. Wait a minute now. You're saying you want us to deal with a pig problem? Leonard said. We were sitting in the agency office, just me and Leonard, along with an economy-sized woman in a colorful flower-patterned muumuu and house shoes. She looked as if she might take a bite out of your ear. She had thick and bright false teeth, and in my view, wasn't afraid to use them. It's a hog, sizable, keeps attacking the family, the woman said. My kids, 3 of them. Another one, Cheryline, doesn't live at home, so she's pig-free. I hardly knew her father. I was pretty wild once, used to drink a lot. But that's a different story, and you don't want to hear about that. She paused, perhaps hoping we did want to hear about it, but we offered no encouragement. I found the fly on Brett's desk to watch. The moment passed for her story. The fly had its moment as well and flew off. She said, all the kids are afraid of Porky. That's what we named him. One time Porky humped my leg like a dog. I had to let him finish because he wouldn't let go. He was kind of soothed afterwards, so I was able to escape with a wet leg and all of me still intact. Big as he was, wonder he didn't push me down. But he's quite agile and he can stand on his hind hooves. He was more of a show then. He put on some weight since that lovesick moment. I bet that son of a bitch tops out at 400 pounds. Still gives me the love eye when he catches me hurrying from the house to the pickup. The kids go to catch the school bus or come home on it. They got to run like wild horses to keep Porky from getting to them. Goddamn bastard ate my daughter's cat, Tulip. And that cat was sizable and a scrapper. Seen Tulip whip a good-sized dog once, but that hog ate old Tulip like she was an ear of corn. Sometimes to get the kids on the bus, Baby Darling, that's my youngest girl, owner of the cat, also the fastest of the kids, even though she's short-legged, will put herself out there first and run around the house. Old Porky following. That gives the other kids time to run to the bus, and then Baby Darling will beat it to the bus just before the driver closes the door. She'll just in time. She's a brave little scamp. Lady, we're a private detective agency, not swine management, I said. There's got to be someone else to talk to, American Pig Patrol or something besides. How much are you willing to pay for Leonard here to catch that pig and throw him in the can? Leonard said, I'm not catching no damn pig. If Jim Bob Luke was here, he'd catch him. He used to raise those things. He could teach it to drive you to work. He's not here, and he's retired from pig business, I said. I have a little disability pension, she said. I work cleaning houses, but it's not a daily job. Hog catcher is not really our bailiwick, I said. So no help, the woman said. Me and my kids have to live in terror from the neighbor's hog. Officially, Leonard said, I don't work here no more. You talked to the neighbors about it, I said. Yep, called the sheriff's department too. Sheriff's deputy came out and tried to herd it back into the pen, but he wasn't much of a herd dog. He got pulled in the mud and bitten. Understand he filed a suit against the hog's owners, the planters, who are cousins of mine, by the way. But no action was taken that I know of. Like me, the sheriff is a cousin to the planter, so he's a cousin to me. He's more closely related to the planter family tree than I am. I don't know if he's a branch of it or a root. I think he'd known the call came in from me. he wouldn't have done anything on account of, I figured they have interbred enough. One could take a shit for the other one. The other thing is we don't live close enough to the city limits for the city cops to take the matter in hand. The planners being your cousins, I said, couldn't they just do you a solid, put the pig up? And they live next door, Leonard said. What are the odds? It isn't because we feel great warmth toward one another. They're cousins quite a few times removed. I haven't got any pull with them. I just like to get the hog corralled and pinned up and the pen made stouter. Planners are like a bunch of hillbillies from a cartoon. That hog goes in their house and they let it. It don't bother them none. One time I looked out my kitchen window, and my kitchen window's close enough to their house I could see through the big old living room window. There they were on the couch watching TV, and that big-ass hog was sitting on the floor by them. For them, it's a house pet. For us, it's a pork chop terror. Was the show they were watching Green Acres, I asked. What? She said. Never mind. I don't see how this is anyone's job but the planners, Leonard said. The woman tapped her pocketbook on her leg. I got $200 if you nab it, $300 if you kill it. If you kill the neighbors or their kid, I can come up with something more. But I don't want it to look like I was involved. Damn, Leonard said, the rural life is even more savage than I remember. Hell, we aren't all that rural, she said. We live on the edge of town, sit on the porch at night, slapping mosquitoes, and we can see the lights from the board. Or we used to sit, the hog roaming around. We stay tight inside now. Wait in the house, look out the window, to know if we can make a run for our transportation. Come on, help a lady out. You pigging it up or not? I thought, grab a pig, take 200, do not pass go. Me and Leonard had grown up country boys and had been around a few pigs, some by birth, some by personal transformation. So we weren't without some experience in the matter. I looked at Leonard. Leonard looked away, adopted an expression that indicated he had heavy thoughts on his mind that had nothing to do with pig hustling. Oh, all right, I said, but we're just nabbing the hog, not killing anyone, and that includes Porky. We, Leonard said. I was just funning about all that killing, she said. I just wanted caught and put up, maybe sent to a good pig school or something. I got the feeling she hadn't been funning. She told us a little more about Porky and her situation. We took her name, Belinda Grant, got information, location, took her check, and set about getting ropes at my house for pig nabbing. In my garage, while I was coiling the ropes over my shoulder, Leonard said, what kind of low have we dipped to? Brett Sawyer Investigations and Swine Control, I said. I mean, hell, Leonard, we got nothing else going on, and with Brett gone for a while, we got to find something, pay the bills, Last gig got us enough money that we could hire someone to pay the bills. But we won't. That would be lazy. I'm okay with lazy, Leonard said. We took the woman's money, and I bet that was lunch money for her kids. You took it. I didn't. I never said I'd do shit. What'd she say? She had 4 children? I wasn't the one fucking her, so I'm short on feeling sorry for her, Leonard said. That many kids, little heathens, ought to strip naked, put on some war paint, get some rocks and 2x4s, hunt that hog down themselves. They'd save $200, and they'd have a nice supper. They wanted, they could sell some of the meat. I could give them a recipe for some good sauce. Shit, another idea is human sacrifice might appease it. A kid a day for 3 days to appease the hog gods. If they could get the grown kid home, Belinda could offer her up as well. I just looked at him. Don't do that, Hap. Do what? You know what. Do not. Look at me like I'm a heartless asshole. If the asshole fits. That's all of it.
Oh my God, that's fantastic, Joe. That was awesome. Thank you.
My throat played out on me a couple of times, but
Yeah, I know it sounded great. That was fantastic. I really appreciate you doing that. That's great.
glad to do it.
Oh, that sounds like half a Leonard, all right.
Yeah.
I swear to God, you could just lock these guys up in some sort of escape room and never have them get past the first clue and just hang out there for the day. That would be great. So I'm down. So, and what's now I understand. So this is going to be coming out. I think it's slated for what, August?
I think so. That's it.
Or so?
Yeah, August the 19th.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. And who's putting the Mulholland? Yeah, Mulholland Books is putting that out. Eh? Okay. So what's the best way for people that want to buy the book? Is it best to just go direct to Mulholland Books? Is it
Well, there's not a best way. I mean, Amazon obviously is the way most people buy books, so there's no use trying to sugarcoat that deal. And there's Barnes and Noble, and of course there's Mulholland itself, and if you have independent bookstores in your town, or obviously that they can be ordered there. So I always like to support independent bookstores, but
Right.
I'm not going to try to con anybody. Amazon is the one that where most books are sold. It's cheaper. If you live like I live in the country, we don't have a bookstore. We had one briefly, and over the years they would pop up and die. We have one book. Take it back. We have a new one. It's mainly a comic book store.
Okay.
But if you want books, you have to drive for hours to get to a bookstore, and then they may not have what you want. So Amazon becomes our bookstore.
Yep, no, totally fair. So I will, what I'll do then is I'll put a link down below too in the description. So everybody watching this, if you guys want to, after hearing that, I mean, I'm going to be ordering this book too. So I'll be putting the link that I order it from. You guys can order that down below as well. And I would encourage people too, like, especially with that awesome story. You've given some amazing inspiration as well, which really appreciate. So an awesome way that I know people watching this can help out if they, I guess all the cool kids are telling everybody to smash the like button. I'm not that cool, so I'm just going to suggest give it a click. It's free. Takes a second. You barely burn a calorie doing it. And what that does, it actually pulls the video into people like us that could really use Joe's inspiration and, the wisdom such as it may be with the misadventures of HAP and Leonard. So more people will kind of get in tune with that. And speaking of which too, I'm going to use an awful pun because why not? But before we bury the hatchet on this particular conversation, Joe, do you have any final thoughts or any final words regarding Hatchet Girls? And if somebody's on the fence, whether they've been following HAP Leonard through the years, here and there, or maybe just tune in because I watched a few episodes of the TV show, what do you say to them?
I say one of the things, if you like unexpected stories, this is it. You start out with hog rustling and let me tell you, it takes a turn. And then when that turn takes a turn, it takes another turn. Then you realize you took a wrong turn. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's dark in a humorous way. That's always something I try to do with most of my work, is I try to be dark in a humorous way. And Hap and Leonard just have that viewpoint that you might as well laugh.
Exactly.
And I do too. I have kind of the same viewpoint.
Yeah, and they're great. I mean, they're so easy to laugh with, cry with, scream with, fresh pull at your hair with, whatever.
You talk about a parody. A lot of it is satire too. It's satire and parody to some extent, but it's genre to some extent. But it's bigger than life, and at the same time, it is life, and that's why I enjoy writing them. I'm able to, see how far I can push it over the fence and have it work. But I generally try to keep one foot on the top fence rail. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep it embedded in reality, but that other foot's waving around and all kinds of things.
Yeah, well, I think we've all been in places where one thing leads to another, and we think, yeah, how the hell did we get here? This is impossible. This could happen in millions of years. Then you start connecting the dots, and you're like, we could only end up here.
Yeah. If you get people hooked, they'll buy anything. If the characters are believable and the dialogue is believable,
yeah,
they'll support the story. It's one of the things I think Stephen King does really well. You get interested in his characters, you get interested in the people and how they're talking to each other, engaging one another, and then you're going to believe, a giant toaster can come out and beat you with a stick or something. I mean, I'm not a story about a giant toaster with a stick, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And Matheson was different in the way that he always had like one thing. Generally, there were some exceptions, but generally, there's one thing was wrong. He once said in some interview, I think it was, I read, that his was the sort of thing as people sit down to breakfast and something comes out of the sugar bowl. Very simple. He had that one thing, and then even if you're doing something broad, it has to have some sort of rules. It has to have some sort of limit, because if anything can happen, nobody gives a damn.